Well, here is a cautionary tale from our old friend eBay. Now, a friend of mine sent off for this Ferguson Studio 1000 music centre because he had the Studio 2000 from me, and being a bit of a collector of them, decided that he'd like the little one. This is little more really than a 80s boombox with a record deck on top. And so it seemed to be a very reasonable price, and the postage was included. So bids on it, and bingo, I think it was a buy it now as it goes. Well, by the time it got to him, the thing was an absolute wreck. And I mean a wreck. The motorboard there, the record deck, was completely adrift. The box, well, it was just about the same size as this is, width-wise and depth-wise, but not height-wise. They didn't even screw down the suspension screws on the record deck, so that bounced around everywhere too. And it's a miracle it works. I have actually tried it, and it does. It's obviously a sort of BSR clone, but this particular one, it says made in Puerto Rico, I think, but it has at least got a big old shaded pole motor. So no problems there. But the other thing was that this quite thin chipboard casing was all adrift, of course. And on this side there was quite a nasty dent and a crack. And so you see what I've had to do is to reinforce it with some hardwood ply, and just hope by clamping it overnight that that helped. And it does seem to have done the trick. The only thing I've got to do now is to cut out the little slots so that these, which are fitted underneath the motorboard, can go into it and we can get it all fitted securely. Now, this thing was advertised as being in full working order. Well, hello Mr. Siamese, I've got my little visitor again. But it was anything but. The tape deck, none of the buttons would lock down because the locking mechanism spring was displaced, because that had gone AWOL as well. The little post to which the other end is attached had disappeared, so the plate that slides over and keeps the buttons down, like that, you see, wasn't there. The controls were appallingly crackly. Function switch, volume, balance and tone, all the same. One of the two speaker grills, these are little 3.5-inch speakers it's got, was actually pushed in, and I managed by taking the speaker out to carefully realign it all, so now you can't really tell by looking at it that it was ever in that state. But this is very much the 1980s equivalent of a crapperphone almost, but I mean, we can't really say that because it's got much more features. The tape deck is AC bias, it is auto level recording, but it's AC bias. The only crapperphone I've seen that will record on cassette tape was DC bias and sounded bloody awful. Playback was okay, but yes, don't bother. And you can see their dinky little speaker there, and another one here. Doesn't give you much scope for putting in long throw ones, this setup, because obviously this is the main amplifier and a radio tuning board in one, so you can't really do too much down there because the magnet and the speaker basket clearances are too tight. But I thought it was worth trying to save it, and having gingerly powered it up and found that yes, it did at least try to work, well, it seemed a shame. So I fitted a new playhead. The belt appears to be alright in the tape deck. This is going to be another big problem, and then the sides of it, I expect, although this side is intact, the other side does show a little bit of a battle scarring. If I put the light on, you'll see what I mean. There's a bit of a crack running down there, so it'll probably end up covered in Fablob. Anyway, so yes, buyer beware. The photos of this were apparently a bit fuzzy, and that always gets me suspicious. You know, what are they trying to hide? The other thing was that the set was filthy throughout, and I suspect that somebody found this dumped in a lay-by or on the dust, took it home, plugged it in, found it worked, and tried to make a quick buck. There's some lovely people out there, aren't there? Take care in the heat, and see you soon. Well, here we are, the little Ferguson Stereo 1000 again. Now, as you can see, the modification worked. It's all back together again properly and safely. I will probably cover the sides in some kind of Fablon, possibly the same colour, possibly wood effect, but that's about all I can do with it, because there are marks obviously left where it was damaged during transit. Now, this record player, I thought to myself, I wonder how high a tracking pressure this exerts. So, carefully putting the needle on the scales here, it immediately went up to full. You can't do it very exactly on one of these, obviously, because you know, the hi-fi buffs are probably going now. But it was obviously far too high, it just didn't feel right. Whether this is a result of old age, or I don't think it's damaged at all, or whether it was always that way, I don't know. But what I've done is to put a couple of little lead weights. One is inside here, and one is stuck to the back of it, and you'd never know they were there. But it's brought the tracking force down to a much more reasonable 4.3 gram, something like that. And the player appears quite happy like that. So I'm dropping the needle in the groove, literally. There's something else that will need attending to, isn't it? There we are. It's got a nice damped feature on it, but the trouble is I can see it's a bit dirty. So that will have to be cleaned. And there you are, and you can see not a trace of any crackle in the controls either now. Now, going back to this, if you're ever going to send off a record player for transit to somewhere else via a courier or the post office or whatever, you'll see that there are two screws. If I get rid of this scratchy old record, which I use for testing, one here and one there, and you'll find the same arrangement pretty well on Garrards as well. Now, when they're free, the turntable is free to bounce, and what that means is you don't get any feedback from the arm or rumble from the motor coming through your speakers, which are built in usually, aren't they, on the unit that uses this. Or it might just transmit noise anyway. So even the Amstrad tower systems use these bouncy motorboards. By the time this particular unit was built for Ferguson, BSR had stopped making turntables as far as I can see. This is a Matsushita one, believe it or not, made in Puerto Rico. But I digress. Now, before you even think about shipping it, these need to be tightened down. And do you see what it's doing? It's stopping it from being able to bounce around everywhere. The arm may have a clip, it may not have a clip. Whichever, it's best to tape it with something fairly robust, like a little piece of duct tape, something like that. It's also a good idea to put in soft bubble wrapping or some such above the platter and round here, and if there's a lead, put it in there in its own bubble wrap so that it won't scratch anything. But you get the picture where I'm coming from. There is no way in this world that I would have sent this machine through the postal system, or whoever it was who delivered it, as it is, shall I say. Yes, anyway, rant and raving over, and another one restored. Miraculously, the lid didn't get damaged. And there it be. So that's something else to clean as well. The whole thing now just needs a good clean up, and then it'll be good to go, really. And hopefully it will find a better home than it had with the seller. Let me put it that way. Can't always blame the haulage firms or post office or whatever, because they don't know what's in it. If it says fragile, they'll take a reasonable amount of care, yes, but not everybody's that conscientious, are they? And if people don't pack these things properly, the result is likely to be a disappointed customer, the other end, negative feedback and all that crap. And who wants that, eh? Anyhow, see you soon with another old wreck. There's an Amstrad SM102 in the pipeline. Which pipeline would that be, you ask the outful? See you soon.